Yo, what up, street gods? This is Eric Kim, or The Thought. How to become a more optimistic photographer. So I think one of the most important things is for us to be happy, joyful, productive, optimistic photographers. Because, I think, okay, so this is just based on my experience and thoughts. I think a lot of photographers, the ultimate life goal is, okay, I'm going to make a perfect photograph or make a perfect photo book or an exhibition, blah, blah, and I'll achieve some sort of immortal fame, kind of like Henri Cartier-Bresson or whatever. Now, the problem with this kind of line of thinking is that any sort of finality is bad. Which means, if you kind of position yourself where there's a final destination and you achieve that finality, then it's not so good, because then what reason or hope or optimism do you have to keep living? And so, like, I know for my personal experiences, like some basic life goals, right? Like, oh, I want to be like location independent, digital nomad, travel the world, have solo exhibitions, publish a book, become famous, make a bunch of money, get a Leica and stuff like that. And then I achieved all my goals, and then now the question is like, now what? So I feel that actually the philosophy and existentialism of photography is uber interesting to me, because as time goes on, I think I've become a lot more introspective and deep with like photography and just like what it means to me and stuff like that. And hopefully some of these ideas and words could have some sort of benefit or utility to you too. And so, in terms of finding more hope and optimism and joy, it's like I kind of like this like Zen approach where you do appreciate your past photos and stuff like that, but you don't become a prisoner to it, which means you have joy and excitement for the present moment, your past photos, whatever, but you have more joy and more excitement to future photos, because like even the principle of life necessitates future children, future growth, future, existence and stuff like that. And so I kind of like the idea that we could barbell or double dip, both looking back at our old photos, relishing on them, enjoying the present moment, blah blah. But I think this is where maybe like kind of the more of the Buddhist, Zen, Taoist line of thought is a little flawed to me, where it's always like, oh, just stay centered in the present moment, and the present moment is all you need. Don't think about the past and the future, whatever. But I still think that, obviously you want to enjoy the present moment, but I think this is where it's good that you could both harness the joy of enjoying the present moment and being excited and looking forward to the future, because that's what makes humans different from other animals, is that like we could predict and forecast into the future. And so, we're all currently living through COVID or whatever, and it kind of makes us depressed. But sooner or later, like, COVID or whatever is gonna end. Things will never go back to the way they used to be, but there's still gonna be a future where we still kind of travel here and there, and there's still lots of interesting sights, interesting people you haven't yet met, interesting new technologies. Also, in terms of photography, this is where it's great too, because there's so much opportunities photographically that we have yet discovered or explored. And actually, I do think that it takes more skill and more courage to be optimistic and hopeful, rather than to be kind of like Debbie Downer, like kind of to just like bemoan the fact that everything sucks. Because like, once again, like if you're just like, oh, everything sucks, everything's so bad, but whatever, like it has no positive utility for you or for others. And so I almost feel that like foolish optimism is superior than realistic pessimism or nihilism. Because once again, we all know that, you know, things are kind of shitty, but then that should not dissuade us from the fact from keep on living. And, you know, and obviously, you know, I love to travel and stuff like that, and I don't like to stay stationed in one spot for too long, but maybe then this kind of gives me some sort of impetus to walk more, to think more, to deepen my thoughts, work out more. Maybe even, this is like, it sounds so stupid, right? But like one of the great joys I have about quarantine and not traveling so much is that I could actually work out more and get buffer more during quarantine. Eat more meat. I mean, you could still buy meat, that's good. And in terms of finding more joy, hope, and optimism, I honestly do think that it's more of a physiological thing than anything. Is that, you know, the days where it's nice and sunny out, even though it's kind of cold, I can still just go on walks, get some fresh air, get as much natural light as I can. And actually for me, prioritizing my sleep has probably been the biggest thing. I mean, I think it actually takes more skill to get into bed early than to force yourself to wake up early. And so, you know, people are like, oh, it's so virtuous to wake up every day at 4:30 and work out or whatever. I'm like, dude, that's silly. I mean, like, I think it's more virtuous to somehow get to bed by 7:30 and then wake up whenever your body dictates it. I mean, I still remember Tom Brady's, one of his interviews is like, you know, the man doesn't even drink coffee or caffeine. I'm like, this guy is like crazy. But I think the biggest tip that I got is that he tries to get into bed every night at 7:30 p.m. And, you know, once you could do that, and then you could wake up in the morning without the agency of an alarm clock. And now, especially that because it's the winter time and it's getting dark pretty soon, which means, you know, once the sun goes down, there's really not much to do. And so I found myself breaking my fast and having dinner a little bit earlier during the winter time. And that's good because then you have a motivation to wake up earlier naturally. And I really do think that, and this is maybe where the Taoist in me comes out, is I do believe in trying to not fight nature, but to work with nature, to harness nature in a positive way. So like, if the sun goes down early, like, perhaps we should just try to strive to sleep earlier, right? And then to wake up earlier naturally. And so to fight against nature seems to be kind of like a lost cause. So it's not fighting against nature, it's working with nature. So, you know, people often evoke the idea of salmon, you know, shooting upstream or swimming upstream. I'm like, that's cool, but I kind of like the idea that, like, if you're a salmon, like a human salmon, you swim with the current to get even faster and more whatever. So anyways, let us think more natural thoughts, more biological thoughts, and realize that hope and optimism in photography, you know, take care of your health, your mental health, work out, go on nice little walks, you know, look back at your old photos, bring new joy and delight, but know that your future photos are probably going to be more worthwhile than your present photos.